Welcome back to Midco Sports tonight. It's time for Water Cooler Talk, brought to you by Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort. Now, per usual on Mondays, I am joined by Brad Newitt to talk Summit League hoops. And Brad, the Summit League tournament, less than a month. Actually, I counted on my calendar. 26 days away. Do you believe that?
It's amazing when that calendar goes to February, and then February you blink and it's all over. Yeah, it's going to be here quick. And for these teams, this is the key time of the year. I mean, you want to make sure you're healthy and playing your best basketball down this stretch.
Well, one team that seems to be playing some of their best basketball, we're going to start with the women. Ladies first, the USD women. I mean, can they run the table this year? They're 10-0, just got a big win over NDSU over the weekend, beat Western Illinois handily on Thursday. But do you see them finishing strong as they've been doing?
To run through the Summit League undefeated, I mean, to me that's almost unheard of. I mean, we haven't really seen it in the last 7 or 8 years by anybody, but they've got a chance to do it. I mean, their schedule really sets up well. The next couple weeks are looking very kind of easy, if you can say that. They're at Fort Wayne, at Omaha for their next 2 Summit League games. Those surely look like wins. Then they host Oral Roberts, and then, of course, the last game of the year. That's what it's going to really come down to, is South Dakota State visiting Vermillion there in that last game. But USD, I mean, you couldn't be in a better spot. And how well they're playing offensively. I mean, they lead the Summit League in field goal percentage, three-point percentage. They're shooting the ball great. They don't turn it over very much. And then defensively, they just get a lot of steals, and that really helps fuel their offense too. And if they can keep playing at the level that they're at, the intensity and togetherness they are, I don't know. I could see them going undefeated in the regular season.
That would be really impressive. And one thing, I mean, the only thing that's hampering them a little bit right now, we saw Allison Arns sitting out of the NDSU game. I feel like they have some of those nagging injuries that every team is going through at this point in the year. So it's just a matter of doing rehab and keeping up with that. But you mentioned that SDSU game that's going to be February 21st live right here on Midco Sports Network. Do you think SDSU can keep up with USD until they meet again for that anticipated last game of the season?
I think their road's a little bit tougher. I mean, they've got some really difficult road games ahead, especially they have to go to Western Illinois before they play at USD. So that's one that's going to be a little bit difficult. They do have a week of prep heading into that. But to me, the key for South Dakota State is that player right there, Ellie Thompson. If they can get her scoring in the low post like she has been of late, her last 3 games averaging almost 20 points a game and nearly 10 rebounds. She's had a little bit of a disappointing senior year up to this point, but she has really kicked it in gear. You get her going along with Miller and Giebert, who are already 2nd and 4th in Summit League scoring. Now you've got a 3-headed monster for SDSU on the offensive end.
Well, we heard from Aaron Johnson last week, and he said we need Ellie to play at that level if we're going to do the things we want to do, because we've seen her in the years past played against her. She's an outstanding player. A little surprising with her stats this season, but man, if she can get it rolling, they are going to be tough to deal with. Well, moving on to the men, we're staying with the Jackrabbits. Do you think the Jackrabbit men are in the driver's seat of the Summit League?
I'm not sure if they're completely in the driver's seat, but they're sitting really good. I mean, they only have 1 loss, and they've got a pile of road wins. I mean, that's the thing that's really nice for them. Now, they've got a really tough road trip coming up here. They've got to go to Denver, to Oral Roberts this week, Thursday, Saturday. And, we saw South Dakota have to do a similar road trip about a week and a half ago. They ended up losing at Denver, and that's the thing that's separating these 2 teams. So, to me, if SDSU gets through this road trip with 2 wins, watch out. Then they're really on a roll at that point. But they played very well at home in their last 3, especially this week. Really handled North Dakota State and Omaha in some pretty easy wins at Frost Arena.
Well, Mike Dom gained his 2,000th point in that last game they played against NDSU. Talk about that accomplishment. That is insane. Some people don't even get to 1,000.
Yeah, and if you would look at Division I schools, there's a whole ton of them don't even have 2,000-point score in their history. And for Dom to do it, and he's not even through his junior year, is just remarkable when you look at that. He's averaging 27 points a game and nearly 13 rebounds, leading the Summit League in both those categories. A key player, though, for South Dakota State to me has been Tevin King. He doesn't get a lot of headlines, but he's really starting to play good basketball for them. He's always been a defensive stopper, but really starting to score the basketball as well and picking up some of the slack when some of their other players have had some off nights.
Yeah, he just seems like he's playing with such confidence. Obviously, sometimes that defense leads to his offense, but hey, when you can get it rolling, it helps on the offensive end. Well, you talked about that road trip coming up for SDSU, but another team that had a kind of tough road trip over the weekend, USD. They were at Western Illinois Illinois, and they were at NDSU, pick up 2 wins.
Yeah.
How big was that trip for them?
That was gigantic. And I think the Western Illinois win, everyone probably expected that. Maybe not the margin. USD really handled them easily. But then to have to go from Macomb, Illinois to Fargo, and really the games were about 36 hours apart. I mean, that was very difficult. I really thought, USD was kind of ripe for maybe not showing up and being able to play at a high level at Fargo. I knew they would play at the intensity because it's a big game, but to play as well as it, especially in the first half, I mean, they dominated the game, got out to a big lead, 20-point plus lead in that first half, and they ended up needing all of it because the second half got really close as NDSU came storming back. But to me, this said a lot about the maturity of this USD squad, because I think one of the more difficult things is when you lose a big lead, to hang on and find a way to win games, and USD was able to do it. Really big plays by some of their veteran guys down the stretch to seal this.
Well, especially on the road, too. Everyone knows that crowd in Fargo just gets really into it. So you hear the roar. I mean, I was listening on the radio, but you hear the roar of the crowd. It's like, oh my gosh, this is a tough place to play. But finally, we touched on USD and SDSU, both the men and the women, obviously doing very well. Do you see any other team making like a surprise late season push heading into the tournament?
I think on the women's side, you can never discount Western Illinois. I mean, they have got so much offensive firepower. Take, for example, their game at USD on Thursday. They were down big, like 20-some points in the third quarter. Got that thing all the way down to a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. USD still able to hang on and win. But they're a team that is just scary. I think they're scary, especially tournament time on the women's side. Now, on the men's side, boy, I don't know. It's really starting to really look like a 2-team race. I mean, Fort Wayne's a team that's just been really inconsistent, but does have scoring punch. North Dakota State seems to be reeling here lately. Gosh, I don't know. It's hard to see anyone but SDSU or USD probably coming away with it.
I know. It's such a flip-flop from last year when we were like, all right, what's this tiebreaker? What's that tiebreaker? But nevertheless, a month till the Summit League tournament, less than a month, and we can't wait for great stuff today. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, you betcha.
All right, coming up after the break, the SDSU wrestling team had a huge win over Iowa State over the weekend and a huge milestone by head coach Chris Bono. Learn all about that when Midco Sports Tonight returns.